Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting. We have a quorum. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of December 13th, 2010?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. First item on the agenda is item P1. The Housing Commission and staff recommend approval of the application of home funding for Housing Opportunity Development Corporation, HODC, for the rehabilitation of 4 one-bedroom units at 131 Callan Avenue with a not-to-exceed amount of $520,000. Home funds will be structured as a $229,500 loan with a balloon payment at the end of the 20-year term and a home grant of $290,500. Okay, can I get a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Any discussions? Alderman Rainey.
Well, I found the memo interesting, applauding the project. And one of the comments made was we are something to the effect focusing or concentrating NSP2 funds in this neighborhood and on this block. So I wrote to staff and I asked them today, how much exactly have we, how many funds, how many dollars have we concentrated on Callan? And I was told $80,000.
How much?
So $80,000. We have $18.5 million. I hope that's not an example of concentrating NSP2 funds on a neighborhood because, regardless of the reasons why more hasn't been spent, that comment in the staff's memo is incorrect. There isn't a lot of money because it implies that lots of money has been focused on this street. I think this is in my ward. It's probably the ugliest property in the 100 block of Callan. I very much support its renovation. I very much support keeping it rental. There was discussion at the outset about turning it into a condominium. I'm glad they did not do that. The piece of this that I have the largest problem with is it's over $500,000 for 4 units that are 650 square feet apiece, resulting in an enormous amount of money per unit per square foot. I don't care what the HUD regulations are. HUD says, oh, you can spend a lot more than this on this property. I don't care about that. These are taxpayer dollars no matter how you slice it, and I think it's way too much money to pump into this property. And I want to spend the rehab money, but what I don't want is I don't like the idea of refinancing this loan. I asked today in a memo to staff, I hope you all got a copy of the answer, what did, in the year 2000, the organization purchases property for something around $200,000. The outstanding loan now is, what, $270,000, something around there? I don't have the exact numbers right. There's so many of them. The reason it is higher than the loan originally taken out is because all along they've refinanced. If the original purchase was in 2000 and the property has been refinanced several times, I think the memo said, and I don't know what the property is worth now, and I'm wondering, did we get it appraised? I don't remember seeing that in the memo. But I would propose that for the time being, we award them the rehab money and ask them, even though IDA is not refinancing now, that they seek other sources to to refinance this. This is exactly what people who are being thrown out of their houses have done. Refinance, and now they have a loan that is bigger than the than the original cost of the property. I mean, I was just very, very surprised by this package.
Okay. Alderman Wilson.
I think I'm just going to echo what Alderman Rainey suggested. I have the same problem essentially for pretty much the same reasons. We do have a responsibility to use the funds appropriately, and I'm just going to agree with Alderman Rainey.
Dennis Marino, could you please come up? A lot of issues have been raised here.
Yes, sir.
In terms of how we justified this investment per unit in this building. And you heard the proposal that we allow the 200 and the portion that would go to the rehab, but withdraw or deny the amount that is to go to the refinancing. So, can you talk about the history of this building? How did we come to want to invest this much money in 4 one-bedroom units?
Yes.
What are we doing?
Right. Dennis Marino, City Staff, Assistant Director, Community and Economic Development Department. The most critical thing, certainly, for this building is to rehab it. It's in significant need of rehabilitation, as Alderman Rainey stated. One of the units is in very bad shape. In addition to that, the reason for the refinancing request is to be able to make the building cash flow better, certainly. Mary Ellen Poole, who's our housing planner, has done a pro forma financial analysis and can speak to that issue in greater detail if you would like. But essentially, the rehab is critical. The refinancing on better terms is also very important to both the project and also the organization. But I understand your distinction there, without a doubt.
Okay. You wanted to come?
Mary Ellen's been with us for 4 months as housing planner. She's a former loan officer for the Illinois Housing Development Authority.
Good evening, Chairman and Jean-Baptiste and committee members. Speaking to the refinance portion of the project, it was critical for this to cash flow, and I underwrote it with a 0% interest rate compared to the private loan right now that has a 6.4% interest rate. We did zero debt service because it really can't support a lot of debt service, and with the hopes that this will cash flow. Actually, it stays positive through year 15, which is the exact year that the affordability restriction would expire, which is an important distinction to make as well. With that, we are able to build in much better reserves so that the maintenance and the upkeep of the building can happen on a more consistent, regular basis, and we don't have to be worried about refinancing. That was the impetus behind the refinance portion of the home. And we really wanted to structure it in 2 different ways, really. The grant is a grant; it's for the rehab, and then the loan is it's a true loan. There will be a balloon payment due at the end of its term. It's a not-for-profit that has a mission to do affordable housing, so we expect at the end of that 20-year term for them to go ahead and refinance and continue on with affordable housing. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
I may not be able to see your light. Alderman Rainey?
I'm wondering, to me, it's 2 grants. I know you're saying it's a balloon payment, but we know that in 20 years, some of us might not be here. And I doubt that the repayment will be there either. But that's just, Debbie Downer thinking. But given the condition of this property requiring over $100,000 a unit, and I know that, I saw how staff calculated it. See, when you spend money, I think you need to divide it by the units. And I know that they're not including this, they're not including that, but the total amount of money needs to be divided by 4, and that way we know what's being spent. First of all, there's an issue in management as far as I'm concerned. In a building that had a unit, 4-unit building, with management, with housing counselors, for a unit to be so destroyed as to be uninhabitable, requiring the eviction of a tenant, I think it was last summer, says to me there's some missing pieces to their management plan, first of all. Second of all, I would be able to consider the refinancing if they paid debt service to the city without any interest, but a monthly debt service. They're no different than people in my ward, and if you saw the legal department's list of foreclosures this week, it was just unbelievable. Everybody from the 6th ward to the 8th ward to the 9th ward, so many foreclosures. People are all in the same boat. But why would we bail out this mortgage when it's not in default? Or is it in default? I didn't ask that question.
No, it's not in default.
All right.
And I'm
Then they need to figure out a way to continue the payments. These are all the units, are all the tenants subsidized with housing authority vouchers or Section 8?
currently right now the three are, and I
Yeah.
have the executive director of HODC here as well. He can help.
But will
answer.
the fourth one also? I mean, I'm just wondering. Is that
It's not a guarantee that it will or will
no,
not
but
be.
it's not forbidden.
No,
right?
it's not
So
forbidden.
it could be. So there is a regular, steady rent coming in here. I know that they indicated that there was some work done over the past 10 years, 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I see here that you've got set aside a maintenance fund, a reserve fund of over $5,000 per unit for the coming, for once this project is completed, or is that what was set aside in the past?
On page 3 of the project summary, is that where you're looking for the operating expenses and the reserves?
I was looking at, let's see, there was a line that said per unit costs for, yeah, that's where I was looking, but I'm not finding it now. Okay, yeah, let's say yes, that's where I'm looking.
Okay. Well, actually, this is one of the beauties of using a rehabbed property. They have historical data to back up their operating expenses as well as what reserves should be in effect. So the operating expenses are about $6,000, a little less than $6,000 per year per unit.
What does that include?
That includes everything from janitorial supplies, taxes. Taxes are a large part of it. I have the detailed.
Well, taxes they're projecting under rehab would be $2,400 or $2,500 a year. I noticed that in the subsidies that the tenants were getting, that there was a utility subsidy.
It's not. It's actually built into through the underwriting of the unit. HUD and any other federal program or state program make sure that if the owner of the building does not pay the utilities, then there has to be an allowance that
Right.
they would pay out of their pocket. They're not getting the money. It's not a subsidy that someone's giving them. They just have to be able to pay. They are estimating about $105 per month per unit in
That's-
various utilities.
And the tenant is getting that to pay the utility.
They pay that themselves. It's an estimate of what they'd be paying. So we combine that with their rent, so we have an estimate that they're not going over the maximum rent limit, housing cost limit.
Well, I mean, okay. I propose that we provide for the rehab, which is a very nice rehab with great development fees, a lot of soft costs here, like 90-some thousand, 90-plus thousand in soft cost development fees, contingencies, and emergency, funds in case something goes wrong. So I think it's a very well put together budget for the rehab. We have community builders doing it. That's fine with me. I understand they do a great job. They're local builders. And I think we ought to go forward with this. And I don't know what else to say. I just totally oppose the refinancing of this mortgage.
All right, any other questions or comments? So I would take it that you had made a motion because
I'm gonna make
Don-
that motion.
Don had seconded it.
Did you?
Well,
No, I made
Don,
the original motion.
you made the original motion? Right, that's true.
Right.
Second, and then there was a proposed amendment.
And could amend.
Well, there's a proposed amendment now.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's
I'm
a
going
proposed
to,
amendment.
let's do it again. I move that we fund according to staff's recommendations for the rehab of this property, a grant totaling, I don't know, what is the total for the
$90,500.
right. $290,500 for the renovation of the 4 units without displacement of the tenants. And I like that plan also. And eliminate the refinancing portion of this proposal.
Second that.
All right. Any discussions on this amendment? Okay.
Alderman, I would like to see going forward them come back to us and tell us what effort they've made to refinance, because I think that would be important to, and
Yeah,
I'm sure that they've asked Ida and others, but maybe the times are going to improve and they'll be able to do that.
Is Richard here? Richard, can you come up for a minute, please?
Lionel, could I ask you a question
Yeah,
too?
go
I don't
ahead.
know if Richard. I'm not sure if I'm seeing if I'm seeing a math mistake here, but on the unit rent schedule and affordability calculation, we've got monthly rent $725, utility allowance $105, rent plus utilities $755. That's a math mistake?
It's
Okay, so there's not.
It's supposed to be
one might think
8:30?
that there.
okay.
Okay. So there's not as much room for additional rent as it might appear from this calculation.
Yeah. Richard, if you could just share with us, what efforts have been made to look at different options for the refinance.
Sure. Again, my name is Richard Koenig. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Opportunity Development Corporation. And we refinanced the first mortgage, the private first mortgage, just last year. Basically, we bought the building in 2000 for $220,000, and we've been operating the building basically at break even for the past 10 years. And so every few years, in order to cover the cash flow that goes negative every so often, and to do additional repairs, a couple years ago we put a new roof on. We continue to refinance. So we're right about where we started. Mortgage goes down a little bit, and then we refinance, and the mortgage goes down a little bit. So we've been able to operate very, very, very tight throughout the past 10 years without any sort of assistance from the city. So we did refinance the first mortgage just to try and continue to make ends meet with the property. With this, we had, as you know, originally proposed doing a different structure and as a for sale, and agree that the rental at this point is probably a good idea. And it's kind of a give and take with deciding how much of the first mortgage should be, how do we refinance the first mortgage. We have talked with Ida. It's simply it's such a small dollar amount for them to go through to jump through all those hoops. It's not something that necessarily it's going to be able to get approved through them. The first mortgage is as inexpensive as we could get the first mortgage. We are happy to try and figure out a repayment structure on that first mortgage if the city is willing to grant something, whether it's, the balloon payment was something that was suggested by the Housing Commission. The Housing Commission did go through through the financials, through the numbers, and debated the pros and cons of how this is structured. What are the give and take of trying to make this work? So in looking at how much cash flow does there need to be at the end of the month, after we paid all the bills, after we paid the taxes, after we put aside money for reserves, there isn't a lot left over to pay the first mortgage, which is why we ended up needing to take the entire first mortgage out with this sort of funding.
Okay. Well, the question has been raised as to whether or not you can service the debt. And you saying you cannot right now, but I think it's worth.
We can service a
well,
little bit of debt. We can't
well,
service an amortizing debt. We're happy to work with you and with staff to figure out how much that dollar amount is, but it's not a fully amortizing amount that at the end of 15, 20, or 30 years, it'd be paid off.
I think it's worthwhile to go back and come back with a proposal that includes that. because at this point in time, I think there's support for the grant, but I'm not sure whether there's support for refinancing.
The Housing Commission, I think, didn't get into how much that could be, and had a discussion just the overall figures, like you've discussed the overall dollar amounts and how that's allocated. But if it's the preference of the alderman to figure out how much that dollar amount is, we can figure that out. There can be I don't know if you call it a nominal amount or a significant amount, or figure out what that is. It just becomes a math problem at this point.
Okay. Well, were you getting up to say something, Dennis?
Just going to say that staff will continue to work with HODC, if the committee and the council approve the rehab, and we'll continue discussions with them along the lines that the committee suggested in terms of their exploring alternative means for refinancing. And we'll also visit with them about an amortizing type loan with the city as a possibility. But I think what I heard from the committee was basically you wanted to see them look elsewhere first.
Okay.
Lamb.
All right. Yes. Alderman Ring.
Do you have debt service now, Richard?
Yes, we currently have a first mortgage, the $230,000 at 6.4%.
Okay, what is that payment a month?
I should know exactly. I think it's, I don't know. Does anyone have a calculator? I can figure it out.
I'm sure it must have been in this paperwork, but I don't recall seeing it.
I don't think I'm sorry. I don't think the current amount is in there. I think it's, I'm going to guess just about $1,200 a month.
$1,200 a month?
I should. Does anyone have a calculator? I can figure it out real quick. We could.
You don't. I mean, if
remember
that's the ballpark.
I don't remember
that's-
exactly.
okay, all right. And you're not able to pay that?
No, we're not able to pay that and set money aside for repairs and keep the cash flow without going negative, which is why kind of that cycle that we're in and trying to continue to maintain this and operate this as best we can.
Well, I think it's worth coming back and with that all figured out with a clear statement, okay? So, all right, it's initially moved and seconded, and then there was an amendment. That amendment was seconded. We will now vote on the amendment, okay? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, so the matter before us is the amended proposal, which will grant to HODC $290,500. And so that's the motion as amended.
Could I ask, could we have Richard come back up and give us an overview? I know staff said, like energy efficient appliances, but could you give us some more visual of what you're going to do with the money? And what is it per unit? Just so people know.
Well, I think you have in the memo the overall per unit hard costs are $60,000.
But altogether, I want the total rehab, the 290 divided by 4. What does that come to? Because you got to figure. I mean, that's what we're spending.
Right on the summary that you have that staff has prepared. Hard construction costs are $245,000, which is $61,000 per unit, plus a 10% contingency of $6,000 per unit. So it's just over $60,000 per unit on the rehab, on the hard costs. It's in the bottom of the front page of the summary.
60 times 4 is 240,000.
Correct.
I understand what you're saying, and then there's a developer fee and whatever that you're not attributing to a unit. But the fact is, it's 290,000 divided by 4. Okay, so tell us what you're going to do.
We're going to we're going to redo the plumbing system, the electrical systems, the heating systems, all new kitchens, taking out all the existing kitchens, all new bathrooms. We'll do new energy efficient appliances, which we talked about, and then it needs new gutters, some exterior tuck pointing,
Richard, didn't I read in here that since you purchased this property, you did a new roof and new gutters?
We did new gutters 2.5 years ago.
And you're going to do more new gutters?
No, it was
Oh, I
just
thought
it
you
was
just
just
said-
the roof. It wasn't gutters at that time. It was just the roof.
Oh. Okay, all right. Okay. And did you do new heating systems previously?
When we first bought the building back in 2000, we did put in new furnaces at that time.
And they've deteriorated? Or their useful life is over?
Yes.
Okay. And what about exterior work? Any exterior work?
The exterior, we've been discussing ways to make it not the ugliest building on the block.
How about some bushes or something? No?
It's got some bushes around those front patios. We're thinking that maybe a different color scheme might not accentuate some of the ugliness, so we can use different paint to not accentuate the peak and that, but those are cosmetic type things that we can easily address.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All those, yes,
I
Alderman
just
Holmes.
want to make sure I understand. So we're going to give the grant, and we're going to have them come back. Okay, for the refinancing. Okay.
Well,
All right.
they're
Well,
not
proposal.
necessarily. I mean, we asked them to go and search.
Right, but they're coming back regardless to
And let
report
us
to us,
know. And let
right?
us know.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, so it is passed. Okay, item P2. This is a recommendation that we approve the proposed plat of subdivision of the former site of Kendall College, the block bounded by Arlington Avenue, Colfax Street, Sherman Avenue, and Lincoln Street, and also referred to as 24-8 Arlington Avenue, into 19 single-family lots as shown in the plat dated November 3rd, 2010. Okay.
Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
I will let you speak. There's a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you. We're asking that this be held in committee until the next meeting to allow an opportunity to meet, for staff and I to meet with the developers. Developers have agreed to this.
Okay.
Haven't they?
Good.
Yes. So we're all on the same page.
All right. Do we have any issues with that? Okay. All right. Then this matter will be held in committee, and I assume that the second P3 as well. Okay. All right. So, but we could move P3 and hold it. It's up for introduction. P3 is a recommendation that that we approve ordinance 11-0-11 to accept the dedication of public alleys to be included in the proposed plat of survey for 24-8 Arlington. All right, can we get a second for purpose of introduction? Okay, it's been moved and seconded for introduction purposes. These two items will be held in committee. All right, yes.
Could we find out what the issues are, so those of us who won't be at the meeting have some knowledge of?
Yeah, I assume that
what the
we'll get a
concerns
report, but Alderman Fisk, you want to share with us?
Yeah, there are just some general issues that have come up, I think, because of the budget crunch at the end of the year. There were a number of issues that weren't discussed that staff thought had been, but they hadn't. So I think we were just running a little bit too quickly ahead of ourselves. But we'll work this out in 2 weeks.
Okay, so there's, yes.
To be more specific, Steve Griffin with Community Economic Development Department. We were looking at the plat, and there were some particular questions about how it would work after it's recorded. We weren't sure the sequencing of how the public infrastructure, the alleys, the utilities that needed to go into the subdivision would occur prior to the sale of the individual lots. So we wanted, and the developer has turned in that set of construction drawings. So we wanted to review those set of construction drawings, meet with them to go over those particulars to see what comes first, and then we would report back to you accordingly. So it was the public infrastructure that's associated with the plat, that the alley and the utilities and the stormwater management system in particular.
That makes sense.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Item P4. It's a recommendation that we adopt Ordinance 7-0-11, granting a special use permit for the operation of a Type 2 restaurant at 824 Clark Street. The ZBA recommends allowing the proposed business to operate until 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, while staff recommends that the store operate until midnight on Friday and Saturday nights due to nearby residential development, with deliveries allowed until 1 a.m. Well, let's just get the time of operation will be determined, but let's just get a motion to allow for the Type 2 restaurant.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. And before we go into discussion, someone has signed up to, you want to speak on that?
I just wanted to say this is a wonderful opportunity, and we're really, really happy to welcome them to Clark Street in Evanston. So.
Okay. Do you have anything to say about the debate over hours of operation? Do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, not okay. There's a gentleman, Felipe Caro, who signed up. Yes, sir. Introduce yourself, your address.
I went to the Bears game yesterday, so excuse me, sorry. Felipe Caro, 1720 Maple Avenue here in Evanston. And I would kindly request if you guys would consider, or staff consider, if I would be able to open till 2 a.m. I don't serve alcohol, and I have a business in Chicago. I've been there 9 years, and almost flawless, no incidents whatsoever, and we're open even later. And I don't mean to compare Chicago with Evanston, but that's my record so far. And even though I haven't done anything wrong, I would hope that you guys consider maybe a probation in the event if there was such an incident, to allow me to open till 2 a.m.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
You want to let her
Could
speak
I comment
first?
on that?
Okay. Go ahead.
As some of you may know, Northwestern University has improved its dining at Willard Hall, and their dining remains open until 2 a.m. And considering that there's no residential immediately surrounding this restaurant, I think it's fair to give them an opportunity to compete with the dining at Willard Hall. If it were closer to residences, I might object.
Okay. Staff indicates that it's. What we want to hear from staff as to what's going on with that. Yes, Alderman Rain.
Well, I'm absolutely speechless. However, I'm recovering quickly here. I just wanted to concur with Alderman Fisk and read from from Spark's comments, and they say the comprehensive plan defines the area as follows: a mixture of office, retail, entertainment, institutional, and residential uses. It's a distributor street. These streets distributed traffic to businesses and parking. I mean, to focus on a residential use is really, I think, going a little too far here. And I think, we need to grant this, and like in any other special use, if they are abusive, we can withdraw it. But I think the gentleman is correct. He serves no liquor. I mean, let them stay open. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I support Alderman Fisk in this one.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Just to clarify.
Alderman Nguyen.
You're asking for 2 a.m. except on Sunday nights when you're going to close at
Friday
midnight?
and Saturday.
Yes.
Friday and Saturday.
Just Okay, could you explain exactly, because I think we have different, I saw something somewhat different in here. So it's till 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights,
Yes,
and then Monday through Thursday, how late?
just till midnight.
Till midnight. Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you.
Staff had, I wanted to get an explanation as to why staff recommended. Is that you, Dennis?
Yeah, Alderman, I'd be happy to respond to that question. Since the time this was written, staff has done additional due diligence on Mr. Carroll's restaurant in Chicago, so there's much lesser concern about that. There was some concern in the proximity to residential, but that residential really is set back. So having done the additional due diligence with Mr. Carroll, I think we'd be comfortable with the ZBA recommendation.
Okay, good. All right, any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, great. P5 is a request that would deny the proposed special use permit to protect the integrity and potential revitalization of the commercial area centered at Maple Avenue and Foster Street. Approval of the special use application would remove the possibility of commercial space occupying current commercial storefronts and lessen the critical mass of commercial space in the business district. The ZBA, by a 4-2 vote, recommended approval of the application. The Site Plan and Appearance Review Committee also recommends approval of the project. Can we get a motion?
Move approval.
Okay, we got a second. We have about 4 people who had signed up for this. Let's hear from them, and then we'll get into discussion. Okay, Mona Gobratz, is it? I'm sorry, Mona. I think I murdered your name.
Not much. My name is Mona Gabriel, and I live on Pratt Court in Evanston. I'm just a citizen of Evanston for the last 3.5 years. And I've noticed I usually in summer when the weather is really nice, I take my pet dogs and I walk over Maple over to downtown and come back. And there is a store there, right there with the metal bars over it, which I think is an eyesore in that particular location. And there is always characters hanging around there that I usually try to avoid and cross the street to go to the other side if I'm walking down there. And I would hate to see something like this happening along this particular area. It's removed a little bit from downtown Evanston. So I would like to see it more residential because I'm sure that people who are in their apartments are going to take care more of it, and I will not have to have an eyesore whenever I'm walking around there. This is my opinion, and I would hope for you to consider it as I am a concerned citizen, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Tomislav Girovic.
Good evening. I live in the area for the last few years.
Your name for me?
Tomislav Sirovic. And I find the same argument.
What's your address?
2037 Pratt Court. The argument that the lady just gave are mine also. The place is empty for all these years since I moved in. And I think that if no business find the place attractive for their purposes, the owner should find other uses for the place.
Thank you. All right. Nefredi Hamlin.
Hi, my name's Nefred Halim. Nefred. I was the one who submitted this application, and I just have a couple of things I'd like to present to you. I hope I have the time to do that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I started working in this building in 2005, and when I bought the building, it really required a lot of work. It was previously owned by the Ebenezer Church that is down kind of kitty corner to where the building is currently. Just to explain the state of the building when I got it, the third floor, when you walk up the stairs, the apartments on the left were full of bats. There was a woman with 6 children in a one-bedroom apartment who never paid rent, and the kids were never in school. This was a very difficult job for me. I had a Vietnam vet in there who was ill. He did not pay his rent. I really tried my hardest to work with them and to. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a solution for them. And even more unfortunately, the veteran, his name was Louis, we had to evict him because I had to clean the building up, and it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. The woman with the kids, I gave her some money myself, and I tried to help her find another place to live. She ended up moving to the south side. The 2 storefronts that have been vacant, one to the north side was Cafe Mud, and then the one on the south side was the tanning salon. The cafe, I worked extensively with the owner of it. His name was Arist, and I personally believe that cafe could have worked. Before he had to close down, he had some personal trouble, and he couldn't run the business anymore. He was opening up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to sell coffee. I told him, I advised him, get some students to help you. I'll do it, I'll work with you. But I couldn't get anywhere. In the end, he was living illegally in the basement. I was worried because there were pipes down there that were leaking. I called the inspectors to help me try to figure out a solution. In short, the building, it was a very, very difficult building for me to turn around. Luckily, I've had finally after the second and third floors were cleaned up, we spent a good amount of money cleaning up those spaces, and some of them were absolutely uninhabitable. I've never seen such things like that.
30 seconds to try to...
Okay, I'm sorry. So I have really tried to rent these properties, and I have information that I like to give to you. The places have been vacant for about 3 years, so I'll give you the information. You can pass it along. I'll just read through it. And I'd like to read the list of people who I've shown the property to and the kinds of businesses that they've wanted to open in order to show you that I have really made a good faith effort to try to fill these spots. And I must say also at an extremely competitive rent with options to partner with me doing build outs. I've tried everything. I told them I could get them workers. So I showed it to Clay. Clay had a partner. They wanted to open a restaurant. David Reed, who lives in Evanston, he wanted to open a restaurant.
You know what?
Yeah.
We got the essence. You don't have to go through the list of every single...
Do I have the right to do that, or do I not have that right? I'd like to.
Wait a minute. I've already told you 30 seconds.
Okay.
And so you can tell us in general that
okay.
you've made...
So I have
And we heard what you said, and we've read a lot of the information already.
All right.
But you don't have to go through
Okay. Well, I have a list 2 pages long of people who I've shown the property to. And then additionally, I'm also a licensed realtor. And I've done a study of properties that are comparable in the area for rent. There are currently 45 properties available for rent that are competitive to mine in better locations. I've seen a number of people who have come and looked at my property, open their businesses in other spots that have more foot traffic that I just can't provide for them. I can't make up for that, for the location of my building. and I have the studies included here. I ran 2 searches, one under office, one under retail, and then I drove around the area and wrote down every single place that I could find that was for rent. So you have a clear listing of what the competition is like. Finally, I just have this zoning map, which you're all very super familiar with. The B1 district, I understand that part of your goal in maintaining, in denying this request is to maintain a commercial area that runs down the spine of Foster. I would like to say that if you look, I've put an X on this map for you where the building is. It's across the street, separated from an alleyway from the Foster stop. And additionally, there are 3 vacant storefronts on Foster already that can't be rented. And that's the main track. And I'm already kitty corner and on the other side of an alley from that. I've gotten complaints from the neighbors, and I really want to rehab this building. I'm having trouble renting out now the 2nd and the 3rd floor apartments because people don't want to live above vacant units. And finally, I did go door to door collecting signatures from people to ask for their approval. It was really cold, so I couldn't do it for very long, but I did get 4 signatures from people who were home, and I got 3 people who told me on the telephone that they approved it, and I can give you all of that information. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is...
I'm sorry. I also just have an exit plan that was asked for in the last meeting, safety plan.
Is what seems to be Kamel Halim.
I need a copy for everybody.
Kamel? Camille. Okay, sorry about that.
I'm Kamil Halim. I'm a Nefret father, and I have interest ownership in the building. I just want the committee to consider the economic situation not only in Evanston, all in the United States. We're facing with a big change in the need for commercial space. There is vacancies we can see maybe some shopping centers are all empty. I don't think with the use of the internet and the use of the habits of the people of purchasing now, we're going to need in the future as much commercial space as we need now. That location of this store, it is very hard to use it as a commercial. There are no foot traffic. There are no parking. So it's really... and as we see, it's really Nefret tried very hard to rent this. She has an ad running every week in the newspaper, and nobody wants to open a space there, a commercial space too. It used to be in the old days, maybe the local grocery store, some boutiques open, but this all gone now. People, we change our habit. We have to understand now. We buy a lot from the internet, and I think we have a big problem in the whole United States with what we do with our commercial space, not only in Foster Avenue. We have vacancies now in downtown Evanston, downtown Chicago. All the suburb has a lot of vacancies now. I think Nefret's proposal is wonderful. She's providing 2 beautiful apartments made for families with master bedrooms, master suites, and they have bathrooms. And I think the front of the building will be improved a lot. And we are not losing a lot because there's so much vacancies there. The second thing, I think for safety-wise, I think if she put this unit, maybe the code will require her to fire sprinkle the building, so we'll do good for the building and for the area. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Finally, Jonathan Bean.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Bean, and I work for Nefret Halim, sort of in a capacity of general factotum. I've assisted her in showing the commercial spaces, and I was here last month both for the Planning Board meeting and for the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, both of which approved this plan. And both Nefret and Mr. Halim have sort of said everything that I could say, except for one thing. I heard Alderman Rainey say something very interesting, and that is that 20 years from now, the likelihood of getting the money back on this, P1 discussion was minimal to none. And my feeling is that the possibility of revitalizing this area, this particular area, as a really viable commercial area, is slim to none. And really, that's about all I have to say, because as Mr. Halim said, these commercial spaces, they're really just going away, whether we like it or not. And I think that with Foster diminishing significantly, you've got the downtown area, that's still pretty vital and significant. You've got noise that's holding on, certainly holding on. There's enough action up there. But Foster Street is really going away in a big way, and the few commercial spaces on Maple right there at Foster, there's really nothing left. So I guess, having said that, that would be it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Any comments? Alderman Holmes.
Well, this is in my ward, and I'm given what the last two speakers, especially the father, who talked about this being for families, and I believe that this is rented out to students. Is this not correct?
No, look at the floor plans.
I'm not talking about the floor plans. I'm talking about what it says in the, you have 10 residential area units.
The current tenants that I have on the second.
If it's a question, if you want her to respond, can you go to the mic, please?
The current tenants who I have on the second and third floors are a mix of graduate students and actually families. I have a family with a little baby on the second floor, and the rest are graduate students. It's hard for me to get families in a one-bedroom apartment. I did specifically design the first floor interior to be more conducive to, I don't want to rent it to students. I want it to be rentable for families. And for that reason, I designed it that way with my architect to include a nice master bedroom that could fit a young family with bedrooms, kind of children's bedrooms on the side.
I'm opposed to this. Well, number one, because it's a small B1 area, and I certainly don't think that we can continue to change an area because it's very difficult to rent in this economy, and I understand that. I really do, but I don't think that retail space or commercial space should be changed because the economics are just really, really hard right now. I think that we have fantastic staff, new staff, and I think that given the opportunity to work with them, that they may be able to help her look for some potential renters for that space. There was a tanning studio there when I first got elected, and then there was a coffee shop. Now, I know you are proposing that you want to do a lot of renovation, and I'm thinking that if you do the renovation first, that might then attract some renters to that area. The first lady who spoke about the wrought iron or the windows, I agree with you. I think that's a real message to people about a neighborhood when you put that kind of
Excuse me, ma'am.
I understand. I'm just simply agreeing with you that it's not a good thing. I am agreeing with you that it's not a good thing to have, and I don't know why they would choose to have it cordoned off like that. But that's a choice of the landlord. But I would hope that we would not. That we would support the staff's recommendation in this. I've received many calls. I've talked to many neighbors. I see some, they didn't sign up, but I don't know why they're not speaking out, but who were opposed to this and a couple of them came to the, I believe, to the site plan and review. And I believe one of them did come to the ZBA meeting. But they are concerned about the space being turned into residential. And I think that I certainly would want to ask our staff to help you look for tenants, for that area. But I certainly cannot support turning this space into a residential area when it is designated for commercial and real retail.
Any other comments? Okay.
When, could I ask a question of
Yes.
the speaker? When you bought this building from Ebenezer, was it in foreclosure or in any way in default?
It hadn't officially gone on the papers, but it had a number of liens.
Second question is, was it on the tax rolls when Ebenezer owned it?
Yes.
It was on the tax rolls?
Yes.
What kind of taxes do you pay right now? Can you tell us? Do you remember?
Oh, gosh, about $40,000. 28? No, it's... I remember a bill for 33, and I don't know what the new estimate was, but he's between 28 and 33.
All right, all right. One of the things that I wanted to comment on was I recall, and maybe Alderman Nguyen or Jean-Baptiste recalls from the past, where we considered the problem of buildings where, and such as a B1, where we require commercial on the first floor where there's residential upstairs, and began to address the problem of a lot of the buildings that had vacant commercial space on the first floor and how hard it was to fill it. And do you remember those conversations that we had, and how, you know, maybe it's just not always wise to require commercial where it looks like commercial just isn't happening? I mean, yes, there was a tanning salon, yeah, we know. And not to always refer to Howard Street, but we had that issue with 415 Howard. Everybody was appalled that we were not going to require commercial on the first floor. We didn't require it, and the reason we didn't require it was because of the nature of the commercial that might go there, resulting in hanging out and things. And as a result, the first floor is just really very nice with lobby and you know, computer room and all that kind of thing. We had focus groups of developers talking about Howard Street, which is a commercial strip. And this was about 10 years ago, and all the major developers in Evanston who had worked in Evanston came to the focus groups and told us, what you've got to do with Howard Street is, except at the intersections, you've got to start adding residential. You've got to start doing infill residential. Of course, the market tanked and nobody could do anything. But their argument was that in certain areas, you just are not going to get commercial uses on first floor where there's residential upstairs. It's, you know, I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. It just isn't happening. But I understand your concern. I think the biggest plus for agreeing with ZBA and Spark is the fact that they're going to restore the first floor facade, right?
Yeah.
Just yes or no?
Yes,
yes
absolutely.
And the one thing I know about the Halims is that in their community where they live, someplace up north, they are the leaders in restoration and renovation of
historic structures,
yeah. Et cetera. So I believe them that they're really going to do that. But I will defer to Alderman Holmes, even though I think she's making a mistake in this case. I think it
Thank
would
you,
be,
Alderman Rainey.
No, I'm saying I think you know your neighborhood better than I do. But I'm just saying I think the model would be to allow them to go residential on the first floor.
And
but
then,
I'm going to support you.
I understand that, and I appreciate that. And I just not to paint the picture as being so bleak. There is a grocery store on this block in this area, as well as a sign shop. So it's not like there's not other commercial and retail space there. And I'm going to say, working with our staff, I believe that we can help them find, some folk who would be willing to come to that area. And, that's how I feel. I believe I'm speaking for the majority of the people who live in that neighborhood. And, so we are.
Hold on. Sir, if I let you speak, since you live in the neighborhood, you want to make a comment, then you could come up here and make a comment. Okay, brief. But I'd like to hear from staff on this issue before we vote.
My name is John Mintier. I live at 1111 Foster Street. I've lived in Evanston since 1971. I have a family on the corner of the alley and Foster Street, just down from Ridge. And I've seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood, and I've seen a lot of empty storefronts, which are eventually replaced. It's not impossible because the sign company just moved from Emerson and Ridge and took the corner of Maple and Foster about 200 feet from where your empty storefronts are. And my son used to run a coffee shop right on that corner, incidentally. But the thing we don't need in the neighborhood is more tenants. We've done a lot of studies about overpopulation, too high of a density in the neighborhood. I'd be encouraged if it were families, but there's no guarantee it'll be families. And if families won't rent there, then, because a lot of families don't want to live under 2 floors of students, with one exception. So the neighbors, I'm a member of the Fireman's Park Neighborhood Association, and the neighbors are pretty unanimous, at least the ones that I know, in opposing this, because the neighborhood is actually defined in part by the stores. And we just lost a great video store. The guy gave it up and went to California, but that was right on Foster, so that's only been empty for a couple months. And I could go all the way back to Great Expectations and all that. But the stores do add to our neighborhood, and they give it a definition. If it's just more tenants, there's no definition there except overcrowding, as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate you letting me talk. I got here too late, Dolores. That's why I didn't get on the list.
You could just put your name on this.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So I wanted, sir, we're not going to engage in a lot of back and forth. Okay? Hold on one second. Yes, Director of Community and Economic Development.
Just really quickly, when I first got here, this application had just been filed, and I was looking at it, and I really do think it's a step in the wrong direction to have it converted to ground floor residential, because the dominant pattern, and Mrs. Alderman Holmes was just getting at that, is already first floor retail and shops. You have the sign shop, you have a grocery shop, and then there's 3 tenant spots there. And I wouldn't characterize it, as the glass is half empty, like the applicant is. I really think it's half full, and I think we ought to be patient enough and work, like Alderman Holmes is talking about, with the applicant and see if we can't help them recruit.
I'm sorry, can I please speak one last time? I've been showing this place for 3.5 years, and the sign shop that is on Foster, I wanted him to rent in my building, and he chose Foster because it's the better location. A lot of people who came and looked in my space chose better locations. This shop is at the brink of the residential area, and furthermore, if you look in the photographs that I've handed, the physical appearance in the street, I beg to differ, is not commercial. Even the commercial properties are set in what are they are in styles of old American foursquares and old American homes. They're not in residential, they're not in commercial buildings. There is no site pattern along the street that gives the feeling of a commercial area. I wanted this place to be commercial. I tried to open my own coffee shop there and get partners. It's not feasible for me. When I have a vacant space for 3.5 years, the cup is empty for me.
Okay. And we hear the argument. Okay?
All right.
But I see Mr. Halim wanted to say one last. You got 30 seconds, Mr. Halim. You could go over there. 30 seconds, okay, sir? No, she started to come up and she went back.
I suggest something I think will make everybody happy. If really the staff can help rent the store, why don't we postpone this for another 6 months? And let's try to work with them. We want to keep it commercial. We don't want to put apartment there. And if we fail, we come back.
Okay. That may be a good proposal. Alderman Rainey.
give them
to just
6,
hold
let
it.
this.
You want to
we don't
withdraw
want to
your
expire.
application.
We don't want this to expire. I don't know what the.
Well, we're going to let Dennis Marino tell us what's going on with that. They want to withdraw this and be able to come back.
I don't think they want to withdraw it. Do you? You want to take?
Yeah, we want to keep it on hold.
For 6 months.
4 or 6 months, whatever the staff can help us with that.
Yeah, currently our past practice has been to continue this kind of thing to a date certain is an option for the committee, certainly.
We could do to a date certain.
No.
Yeah.
It has to, I think it has to be longer than that. I don't think that.
6 months?
Well, let's
No, she
choose
said
a 6-month date then.
6 months.
Legal? Is that cool?
What's it to us? Nothing. I mean, they can't put commercial
Okay.
on.
So right now, we are January.
June 27th.
June 27th. Okay. Thank you very much, Wal.
That's good.
He was
Thank
over
you.
there. He's here now. Okay. Then can we get a motion to hold this matter until June 27th?
So moved.
So, Alderman?
Yes.
What this means is they will be aggressive in searching for commercial. We will help them.
Yes.
And hopefully it'll all work out and they won't need to come back. Right?
Hopefully. Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's what's going on. All right. The next, we have no other items for action or introduction, but Jeanette Risky wanted to make a comment. He's signed up for public comments, so please come up, Mr. Risky. And then we'll look at the foreclosure listing.
It's just heavy duty, that's all.
Go ahead, sir.
I just have a very quick comment. I was watching Alderman Newman's show on public television interviewing the city manager, and I thought he made a very interesting comment. Given the condition of the economy, basically he was suggesting that the city eliminate any fees on developers for all this affordable housing, so these developers, if they ever decide to start developing again, will be able to do something. And I thought that was a very interesting thing that he had proposed. That any types of fees that you have these developers given to funds that should be basically stopped so they can start developing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We did have the report on foreclosures, and Alderman Rainey already has commented on them. Do we have any comments on that? Yeah, and I don't know what we do about it other than to continue to raise the consciousness around it. Okay. All right. Any other comments? All right, can we get a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Move to adjourn.
We adjourn. The city council meeting is supposed to follow immediately, but we'll take 5 minutes and start at 8:30.